What's up, everyone? This is Pooka, and welcome to another game I played on the Pokemon Trading Card Game Online. This game is one of the games from my live stream on Thursday night. I haven't been streaming much recently because I've been busy with school and whatnot, but now I am free, I am done. So I streamed on Thursday night, and this is one of the good games from that stream, I believe. And this deck is going to be, well, it's going to be one of my old favorites brought back again. That's going to be Ho-Oh. Now, last season I used the Ho-Oh deck quite a bit. It was Ho-Oh EX with a bunch of energy switches to take advantage of Ho-Oh's rebirth ability. And then all sorts of different basic Pokemon, mainly Mewtwo EX and Terrakion and Sigilyph. and those are still in the deck. But there's some other twists in the deck now as well. So we'll see how this works out. I am starting off with that shiny Sigilyph. Safeguard has become a very valuable ability. Look, even my opponent's playing it. But Safeguard has become a pretty valuable ability now that Pokemon Catcher has been put on a coin flip, because not as many decks are running Pokemon Catcher. So Safeguard is a nice way to kind of block out those EX Pokemon and force your opponent to attack with a non-EX Pokemon. So we're starting off with that, particularly against Blastoise decks. They hardly ever run any non-EX attackers. Normally it's Blastoise. Every once in a while we see like a regular Black Kyurem, stuff like that, but it doesn't happen too often. Normally they're just left to attack with Blastoise against the Safeguard Pokemon. So it'll be pretty nice here. I do play two different Safeguard Pokemon, so our strategy is going to be to try to either run my opponent out of Blastoise or run my opponent out of energy by forcing them to keep knocking out these Safeguard Pokemon. So I do have an Ultra Ball here. We'll put 2 energy in the discard pile and then get a Ho-Oh EX. I could put down Latias EX as well. That is a nice ability, but if my opponent plays Pokemon Catcher, I probably shouldn't play that down. We'll put down the Laser. And I actually made a big mistake there. I put a Float Stone down on the Kyurem. I was actually going to try to take it back. That Kyurem is there. It does 60 damage for 3 energy. It's not very great. But with a Silver Bangle on it, it does 90 damage, which knocks out Black Kyurem EX because it's weak to Dragon. So you can just knock out a Black Kyurem EX for 3 energy. It's pretty sweet. But I attached a Float Stone to it like a dummy. So now I can't attach a Silver Bangle to it. So I can't even knock out Black Kyurem EX. So way to go. Way to go, Pooka Valley. What a dummy. Maybe we can play a Tool Scrapper on our own Floatstone and then Silver Bangle later, but that was pretty silly on my behalf. I just wanted to draw extra cards with Tropical Beach, but clearly that was not worth it. But we'll see. That Suicune from my opponent really throws a wrench in things because it's another non-EX attacker, and without Catcher on my behalf as well, I won't be able to, catcher it out and hit it before it's powered up or anything like that. So my opponent's pretty much going to get the first hit in on it, which is not good for me. We'll see. It's just one more non-EX attacker we have to deal with. But I am going to use Psychic here on turn 2 with the Sigilyph and do 50 to the Keldeo EX. So if that ever comes out to attack, we should have an easy way to knock it out with a Mewtwo EX or something like that. So that 50 damage is pretty nice. Maybe in the future we can capitalize on it, finish that thing off. But without Pokemon Catcher again, there's just a chance we won't ever attack that again. And it'll just sit on the bench laughing at us because we wasted an attack doing 50 damage when it really doesn't do much. Alright, anyway, this is going to be a long, drawn-out game. I mean, I think we can all see that. If I'm trying to play this little board position game where, we're switching off between Safeguard Pokemon and regular Pokemon and, trying to outmaneuver each other, it's not going to be a quick bang-bang, knock out 3 EXs kind of a game where it's just kind of over in like 5 turns or something like that. This is going to take a lot of foresight. It's going to take a lot of planning, and we'll see what happens there. So we see computer search, and then we see an execute coming back out of the discard pile as well with propagation, and then a superior energy retrieval. So my opponent can get back a bunch of energy, and like I said, this Suicune's going to get the first hit in on my Sigilyph. So I'm going to lose the Sigilyph here in 2 turns, but it may work out for the best. Alright, let's see what happens. We do have the Aurora Beam for 70. Now I draw the computer search, which is a really nice draw right here. We'll put down the Mewtwo EX, and then computer search, discarding Ho-Oh and probably an energy switch. That Silver Bangle is really important. And then we can grab, a couple different things. I'm going to go for the Suicune here and put that down. Perhaps we can power that up. If I can knock out my opponent's Suicune with my own, that would be a nice victory for me, I think. Just being able to knock that thing out. And then force my opponent to use another non-EX attacker. That would be brilliant. So let's see if I can get that going. I could. I'm probably just going to Colress because I'm going to attach, I guess. I only play 1 water energy in this deck. But, looks like I drew it. That's pretty nice. So, alright. So things are working out so far. I'm going to Psychic for 80 damage. Pretty sweet. So here is the plan. I'm going to get knocked out by Suicune, and then I'm going to knock out that Suicune with my Suicune, and then Blastoise is going to come out and Hydro Pump, and then I'm going to knock out the Blastoise with Mewtwo's X-Ball if I can pull off an Energy Switch and double Colorless. Alright, and then I'll leave my opponent with no Blastoise in play, and then I should be able to kind of sweep in and win from there. That is the original plan I'm going to go with right now. So we'll see how that goes. So I get the water onto Suicune. I was pretty fortunate to draw that, actually. And then we'll Ultra Ball away the Fighting Energy and another Ultra Ball, just to get another energy in the discard pile. So I can get Ho-Oh EX into play. I'm going to take Terrakion, doesn't really matter. I'm just going to take something out of the deck. Could probably play it down if I want to, but there's really no reason. I don't even know why I just played that down. It's kind of silly. But now we can go for a Rebirth with Ho-Oh EX. I just want to get that in play while I can. Ho-Oh benefits a lot from the Pokemon Catcher change because it has 160 HP, and a lot of the time, especially against Blastoise, it would just get Catchered out and then knocked out, and it would be a free 2 prizes for an opponent. I mean, they can even attack with Blastoise and knock out your Ho-Oh. But now that it's just kind of on the bench, hey, we can use it for energy acceleration all we want and not really have to be worried about having it be knocked out. So I'm going to go ahead with an Aurora Beam, knocking out the Suicune. And we'll see what my opponent does now from here. As I get the Tropical Beach off of the prize, it's probably the most worthless card I could draw at this point, since both of us probably only play Tropical Beach as stadiums. Then we see the Juniper from my opponent. Blastoise comes out. My opponent knows, alright, I gotta attack with Blastoise in order to knock out Suicune because of that Safeguard ability. We do see a Squirtle coming down because my opponent realizes, well, this Blastoise could get knocked out. I need to get another one. And, oh, hallelujah, a Tool Scrapper gets rid of my Floatstone. So in the future now, Kyurem is freed up to use its attack with a Silver Bangle and knock out a Black Kyurem EX if it comes to that. So I consider that a victory. I made a mistake, but it ended up, I don't know if it pays off, but my opponent is now down in Tool Scrapper, so it all works out in the end. Alright, so we see the superior energy retrieval, and my opponent's going to use Blastoise's Deluge to attach a bunch of energy, and then Hydro Pump for 100, just conveniently does 100, and knocks out Suicune. So that's a bummer, but I do have the cards already to pull off a knockout with X-Ball. I can Skyla here for the energy switch, and this is the versatility that this deck can provide you. I'm going to go ahead and grab the energy switch, and we can move one of those 3 energy on to the Mewtwo. I don't know if it really matters which one I take here. I'm just trying to think if any of them would really matter in the future. But we're just going to energy switch, double colorless, X-Ball, knock out the Blastoise. And now we're tied in prizes, but my opponent doesn't have a Blastoise in play. So I would say I'm at a pretty big advantage at this point. I even get another Ho-Oh off of the prizes, so I can discard that with my Juniper if I get an opportunity. And I will, because here is a Colress for 6 cards. Now, if my opponent gets a Rare Candy Blastoise and knocks out my Mewtwo with Black Ballista here, that would be a very big problem, but does not look like that is going to happen. And my opponent just rushes in with Keldeo, uses Tropical Beach to end the turn. And that's that. Alright. So, I get a Juniper, draw 7 here, and alright, this is actually really good. 7 cards off of the Juniper. Now, I do run those 2 Safeguard Pokemon, but I also run Super Rod, because there are so many matchup-dependent Pokemon in here that I can only afford to run like one of. I do run Super Rod as well, just so I can shuffle them back in and have another opportunity to use them. So we're going to shuffle in the Sigilyph and the Suicune, and then one of the energy, I'm not sure which. Maybe Psychic, because I could potentially use Psy-Drive with Mewtwo if I need to, but probably won't happen, but yeah, you never know. And then we'll go ahead and Ultra Ball for the Sigilyph. And you know, if I were smart here, I would probably just retreat to Sigilyph and then Tropical Beach, force my opponent to have another non-EX attacker, and then once Mewtwo would, or once Blastoise would come out, we would just X-Ball it again, and then probably win the game at that point. But I decide to X-Ball because it's pretty unlikely that my opponent will even have, you know, a Rare Candy and a Blastoise. There are a couple Rare Candy gone. There's a couple Blastoise gone already. So it's pretty unlikely that my opponent will get that into play. And then also have the cards to knock out Mewtwo, which would be 3 energy, I think. 2 to retreat, 1 to attack with Black Kyurem EX to Black Ballista. And even if I do get hit by a Black Ballista, I can just attack with the Kyurem that is the Silver Bangle now, and hit it for 180 damage, knocking it out. So it'll all work out here. However, my opponent does not get the Rare Candy and the Blastoise, so my opponent can only attach 1 energy at a time now, and is forced to pass the turn. So I think this turn I need to kind of retreat to Sigilyph and get back in that situation, force my opponent to do something here. And I almost retreated right away, but it would have been silly. I might as well wait to see if I draw a way to retreat without burning my energy. And of course I get the Float Stone. There's also a switch I could have had as well. And I'll just put Sigilyph active and pass the turn. I cannot even use Tropical Beach because I have 7 cards. But yeah, here it's the same thing, right? My opponent has mostly EX Pokemon to attack with. And this is kind of the strength of this deck. The Ho-Oh deck has always been kind of just a metagame deck. You adapt to what the metagame is. And, you try to pick out certain weaknesses of decks. In this instance, it would be Blastoise's reliance on EX attackers, so Safeguard Pokemon can be very useful. We also have Terrakion for, fighting weak decks like Darkrai. We have the Kyurem in here to just deal with Dragon-type Pokemon. Black Kyurem EX, Rayquaza EX. Ho-Oh is nice against Genesect EX and Virizion EX. With 4 energy, you can Rainbow Burn for a knockout. So, there's all sorts of stuff in here. Latias EX is very good against Empoleon since it has an ability. Cannot hurt Latias. So there's all sorts of stuff in this deck that counter specific things in the metagame, but of course, you can then run into things that, you aren't prepared for, which is kind of the weakness of the deck. But for those things, you just, you have Mewtwo. So my opponent, I think, made a big mistake here, and used a superior energy retrieval before retreating, meaning he was 1 energy short. He only got 3 back from the superior energy retrieval. So he was 3 short, or 1 short of knocking out Sigilyph, which in the grand scheme of things might not be a big deal, but this does allow me to just, go into Mewtwo and X-Ball the Blastoise for a knockout. And then from here, we should be pretty good. So Blastoise goes down. Energy Acceleration is gone. Get my prize. Now, I will get hit by a Black Ballista for 200. That's fine. But we can respond with the Kyurem now to just hit for 180 because of the Silver Bangle. And you can see we kind of have these responses planned out. Terrakion, he's not really doing much. He looks very intimidating, though, right? It's one mean-looking Terrakion. But, I mean, we just we can predict what our opponent's going to do, so we can plan accordingly for that kind of thing. The only issue is whether or not we can power up our attackers in time. And in this game, we've been able to, right? We've been able to predict pretty much every move here and put ourselves in a very good position to win. And that's what this deck is all about. Trying to figure out what the right sequence of attacking is, trying to have responses for the right situations so that eventually you might be able to win. So I do have the energy switch here, moving the energy to the Kyurem and then the energy right on there, and then we can Dragon Claw for 180. Regular Kyurem takes out Black Kyurem EX. And at this point, my opponent says good game, because, I mean, there's no Blastoise left, there's no energy in play. Eventually, the Kyurem's going to, do 90 a couple times and win the game. A couple Squirtles go down, and my opponent just, uses a Juniper and pretty much gives up the game at this point. And probably rightfully so. So that is going to be it. My opponent purposely decks out, taps out, and this is just an interesting game with kind of a complicated deck that may have some potential. Who knows? Maybe Ho-Oh will make a comeback. I don't think it's as strong as it was last year, but there's definitely some potential to do something with it. I'm not sure what the right list is quite yet, but I'm going to work on it. Maybe it'll be fun, but I don't know. It might be. There might be too many decks for Ho-Oh to handle at this point. There's just too much out there. The format is too wide open for it to really be too successful. But thanks, guys, for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I will definitely have some more for you soon. This is Pooka from the Top Cut, and I will see you guys next time.